Welcome to the podcast that does more than just discuss. Embodying Spirit unpacks key metaphysical and psycho-spiritual theories through heartful discussion and playful debate, and then gives you applications and exercises to bring these concepts into your own life. Isabel Almeida, wellbeing coach, and Tārā Love, healing arts facilitator and ceremony guide, have been on the conscious healing train for 40 years between them, studying a range of modalities from yoga and somatic healing to community engagement and philosophy. As best friends, co-creators, dynamic mothers, and dreamers of a better way to live, they have been seeking to live in conscious community for a long time. This is a collection of the conversations around consciousness, connection, and community they've been having for many years. The duo draw on a vast range of theories and schools of thought, claiming the sacred feminine space of relationality between many influences from Hermeticism and Vedic scripture to quantum physics to shamanism and beyond. Also claiming their deeply intuitive inner knowing. They share these deep chats, ideas, and debates openly, bringing new embodied perspectives to ancient wisdom. Each episode begins with a discussion, leading into an immersive exercise and a guided meditation. They share these vital ideas and tools in practical and grounded ways to inspire waves of self-empowered awakening in the world at a time when we need it most. We really hope you enjoy. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to episode 4 of Embodying Spirit. The title of this episode is Dead Dogma and Spiritual Crack, which I'm quite proud of as a title, to be honest. Returning to the goddess within, S in brackets, God or goddess within. Actually, it was when I was in Vipassana, which for those of you that don't know is like a 10-day silent meditation retreat, Buddhist retreat, that I decided that I was going to write a book called Dead Dogma and Spiritual Crack, which I haven't yet written, but like maybe this episode is going to be enough. And I think it came out of a frustration that I was feeling having gone through a spiritual awakening in 2017, of being guided to work with psilocybin mushrooms in ceremony, of working with ayahuasca, of being kind of exposed to a whole bunch of spiritual practices and direct experience of spirit, which I think is really what this episode is about in many ways, and what the whole podcast is about, embodying spirit, right? And I had these direct experiences of spirit, and having come from a very atheist background, actually, even though my spiritual awakening maybe started earlier with the death of my mother, back in 2008, but having these direct spiritual experiences, and I remember saying, it's like, I felt like someone told me that magic actually does exist, because when you're a kid you think magic exists, and then everyone's like, no, Father Christmas isn't real, it's all very material, and if you come from an atheist background like I did, then there's no magic really. And then through this awakening, which had a lot to do with plant medicine, but also a whole other a lot of stuff as well, which I'm sure will come up over the other episodes, I had the direct experience of spirit. And then through the growth of that work and working with the plants and working with my awakening and going into ceremony and kind of being exposed then to the whole spiritual community and all of this stuff, I started to become frustrated with what I understood to be what I called spiritual crack and dead dogma, which was what I felt like a repeating of this same dogmatic approach to spirituality by following gurus or cults, or just without experiencing it personally, feeling kind of smalled and in awe of these kind of institutions or texts or experiences that were totally outside of myself, that I didn't have a connection to, that somehow made me feel like the magic wasn't within me. And that bothered me, and the spiritual crack thing came from me connecting to people in the kind of neo spiritual world who, were channeling, were having direct messages and visions come through from spirit, and me being like really drawn to them and putting them on pedestals, and putting anybody that had these spiritual experiences that I deemed greater than mine or more profound than mine as above me. And that made me feel small. It made me feel very unspiritually connected. It made me feel unchosen. It made me feel like, I guess, and we'll get into this more, like, more akin to the worthless sinner of days gone by. All those reasons that I shunned institutionalized religion from my personal experiences in childhood. And I was like, this is just the same fucking shit again, excuse my language, but this is the same stuff. So that's the inspiration for the title of this episode. Just sorry to Isabel is here. I'm just having a monologue.
Hi.
And we've just had a really interesting conversation, before recording to get into this whole topic. And we realized that really what we're dealing with is quite a touchy subject, actually, because what we're kind of bringing into question and what we're bringing up here is really a big thing, because we're kind of, because for many people, institutionalized religion has huge problems, and they associate it with genocide, with sexual abuse, with being controlled, being smalled, kind of extreme patriarchy, all of these things on the one hand. And on the other hand, a lot of people deem it to be their savior, deem it to be that structure and that container that has helped them to find a meaning in life, that has been the vehicle of miracles, that has held them, that has given them a community, and a way of understanding the craziness of this world. So we live in a world that contains multiple truths and multiple opinions of these truths. And I think that what we realized in this, in the preamble of this, is that we want to make sure to make it very clear that we neither condemn or fully approve, or kind of say this is the way. Hopefully that's become clear through all of these episodes. We don't believe that there is one way. There are multiple truths and multiple ways, and that this discussion is sort of a problematization and a look at the kind of history of these things, rather than a condemning or a condoning of any way of being. Did I say that well, Isabel? Did that make sense?
I think you did. I think that really sums up the fact that that we hold many truths through our discussions with other people as well. So as to what we believe, as in, like for myself, I did grow up as a Catholic, and it was something that I became aware of as being inconsistent for me. And although I grew up very much a believer, and I'm obviously still a believer, I was aware that there was parts of, the teachings just didn't work for me, that didn't make sense. And so for me, it was quite natural to turn away from. Once I'd sort of investigated, I'd gone completely away from it, but I had sort of investigated further and then realized that actually I couldn't quite align with any one religion, and that, it made most sense to me that actually the best way to commune with God is from within, because no matter where you are in the world, no matter who you're born with, the one thing that we all have is this inward, internal conversation, an internal knowing that we can all connect with. And so that essence from within. Yet, I do so appreciate, just what a framework religion can give people. And although, in the long run, I feel that actually we will all look to connect from within, because then we can truly know something when we're really understanding that, we've had that personal experience of spirit. I understand that actually for so many, it's really their salvation, and a way for them to still feel that, as you say, like part of a community, a framework, a way to, just a way to find that
peace.
to find that peace. So there's no part of me that actually, as you said as well, there's no part of us that says that's wrong and this is right. Just our own knowings, which allow for us to say, well, this is why I believe this. And I actually find that, obviously, a lot of the beliefs that we have are aligned with the religions. The fundamental core of these religions, is an idea of oneness and love, and connection, kindness. So we're not outside of that.
Yeah, and in fact, I think all of the main Abrahamic religions and polytheistic religions actually do talk of God being within, ourselves, right? And
yes.
and this is also where it gets confusing, because a lot of these texts also contradict themselves, and a lot of these texts have been scribed by different people, passed down. A lot of them were passed down orally before they were then scribed, and they were influenced by the times that they were written in and by the times they were passed on in. And then there's the interpretation of those texts by different people in power, and the manipulation of those texts and those ideas by different people in power, generally through a very patriarchal time, that has then also coerced these deeply universal and spiritually beautiful concepts and ideas into ways to control people as well, right? They're used for power. And it's very difficult, I think, sometimes for us to separate the two, particularly if we're looking from the outside, particularly when we're not deeply immersed in them. But actually, also when we're immersed in them, right? Because it's also the yes and, right? So you can have something that really gives you a huge amount of inner peace, that helps you to know yourself on a deeper level, and is still potentially separating you from knowing the fact that it is really within you. Because there's also a certain element of that narrative, of that institutionalized religion, that is still containing this sort of big brother, God as the father narrative, right? Which I think has been kind of consistent through the most recent interpretations, in the last few centuries. This idea of God being outside of us, of being certainly when I was a child, it was like the guy with the white beard in the sky, who decides if you're good or bad, and if you're bad, you go to hell. And if you're good, then he'll tell Father Christmas, and you get presents at Christmas.
And also this idea that you'd like, for me in the Catholic religion, you'd have this priest, and this priest would be like the all-knowing. That's how it was almost fed, and that you'd go to him, and through him you'd be able to heal your sins, and it's all just very bizarre, because then you're looking at someone and saying, "Oh, they're closer to God than you are."
Yes.
And, and then maybe feeling that you can never quite be, that godly. And so it's almost like, there's these rules, there's this book, and I think that this is the way, but, I don't follow it. I'm not, I follow it, but I don't follow it. Like, I'm not a good this or a good that, which means that, in some ways it can also mean that you're not taking responsibility for yourself as well, because you're not starting where you are, saying, well, what is the next step for me? You're saying, well, there's so much over there that if I was a good this or that I would be following. And because I'm never going to follow that, then, it's almost allowing you to just keep on where you are.
You're damned from the beginning, because you're so far from that idea, that written idea, or that upheld idea that no one's really following, of what it is to be a quote unquote good Christian, Muslim, Jew, whatever it is, that then you're so far from it. And it's that idea of hierarchy as well, right? That there's people above you and there's people below you, and that you're on this ladder, and that you can be better than or less than. And in that is inherent this idea that you're not perfect in the beginning, you know, that there's something that we're born bad, right? This idea of like savages who have to learn the way to be good in order to be accepted by God, which just doesn't make any sense if I think about it now. It's like, well, you know, even if there was this God outside of ourselves, like, you know, and so why would they make us all bad? Like, it doesn't make sense, right? It's like I believe we're born perfectly imperfect, imperfectly perfect, all these fragments of the divine, as we've talked about in previous episodes. And also that we're all equally divine in these beautiful, unique manifestations of the divine. So creating this hierarchy, it creates competition and it creates separation, further separation, other than the primary separation of being born into this individuated form, right?
But in saying that as well, I do really appreciate the idea that comes with religion that sometimes doesn't come with society, which is that, you know, you can be forgiven. So as much as there is that, there's also the idea that you can start again, you can turn the page, you know, so you can say, I'm sorry. And then, you know, I'm desiring now to be aligned with, you know, love and these ways. And it can hold you in that, because there is obviously this idea about, you know, ask and you shall be forgiven. Whereas sometimes in society without that, there can be this thing of, oh, there's no way for me to come back now. You know, I've done this and, you know, I'll always bear this cross and there's no way of clearing that slate. So even in that way, I can see where religion offers a light as well to some, where society...
But then people can also then misinterpret or use it, you know, to their like nefarious ends or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I can just do this and then I can go to confession and I can, you know,
that's not
that's
real.
where it all comes down to. But that's where it all comes down to personal interpretation as well, right? Like it's about like that's why the episode Dead Dogma, because if you're just using it as dogma, it says this, so therefore this, you know, then it becomes like a rule book that you can find the loopholes in, rather than listening into yourself. Because if we listen into ourselves, then we know that that's not real, like you're saying, right? Then we know that it has to be genuine for it to have impact.
Of course, but you know, that's the thing. A lot of people aren't actually, you know, following that journey of know thyself. They're not going within. And so therefore they're just staying on the mind level, you know, and on a reactive level to what's been, right? So there's no way for them to necessarily find a new opening. What you're talking about is somebody who is, you know, thinking about, like, is it, as you say, like loopholes and ways round, and it's deceitful, right? But often these people that are coming and are born again, they're doing it from a place of heartfulness, of like, you know, actually, I know something better now, having done the crime or having served, you know, whatever. They might be coming from a place of, actually, I understand now that, you know, that was something that I did in a lesser knowing version of myself. But now I have the feeling of what that brought and the pain it brought, and I actually want to follow a new path. Now, with society, it's like,
the problem with that, though, go on, sorry.
Let me just say this. Like with society, once you've, let's say, for instance, if you've committed a crime, you've gone to jail, that's it. You're always a criminal. You know, that stays with you the whole time. And that's the makeup of what we work in out, you know, and that's why I'm saying with regards to religion, that at least there's a framework there, right, that allows for that same criminal to, you know, and a lot of people do. I mean, I don't know them individually to say whether they then went on and followed, but I'm just saying that there's an offer in there. There's something that they, you know, people turn around and say, no, actually, I've found God and I've realized myself. And maybe themselves, without religion, they wouldn't have been able to do that because they would have felt that they were too damaged, right? So, I mean, I just see why it can still be purposeful, is my point. Like why it's still serving.
Well, what came up for me then is that the problem is then with the dogmatic side of things, because that's beautiful, that redemption and that open-heartedness and that ability to be reborn, quite literally, right? Like beautiful, beautiful. But then often those same people will then bring the judgment of this dogma that comes with that. Oh, but they're not going to be forgiven because they're, you know, gay, or because they did this or they didn't do that, or because they didn't choose this particular brand of this religion. Now there's only a certain number of places, and do you know what I mean? Like, and that's and that for me is why it's also dogma, because these are kind of rules and regulations that are passed down without questioning. And the truth is that all of these Abrahamic religions, that were born out of loving kindness, that were born out of ideas of oneness and bringing people together and bringing people out of darkness into light, would have been questioning arenas. They would have been places where people could come and talk and discuss and much more philosophically minded, I would say, right? Where you would have been able to discuss things and talk about things and figure things out and feel how they sat with you. And then over time, they become set in stone. And then you are kind of born into it, a bit like we're born into society with all these laws and rules. It's like, hang on a minute, I didn't choose that. No, but this is the way. And with little kind of, often, not always, obviously there's always exceptions, but often with little kind of explanation or ability for you to really feel how something sits in your body, to really feel that truth. Because also that power is taken away from us, because it's like, but you don't know, little girl or little boy, you don't know, because you don't have the God within you yet. You need to follow this, rather than acknowledging that actually we do have it within us. And that doesn't mean in a bubble, because we are communal beings. So it is about us figuring these things out together as well, and really listening inside. And I think also everything has a place and had a time as well, right? Like a lot of those rules and regulations, a lot of that dogma that I'm calling it now, came of a certain time, because religions came in a particular time and a place. And in fact, the root, I can't remember where I read this or heard this, but the root of the word morals is to do with a particular, like morales, is to do with a particular area or particular space. So morals themselves aren't universal. They are of a particular culture, of a particular place. And obviously, as we grow and know ourselves more as individuals, but also as a people, that idea of morality is going to shift. As we shift and we grow and we expand in our knowing of ourselves and our knowing of our spiritual selves, these things are going to shift. And that's why it can become problematic when we're just following something because we've been told that this is right. And what you feel in yourself doesn't matter. This is the truth, rather than being more open and flexible and allowing to the fact that there are multiple truths, and the ultimate truth is within us as well. And that we do hold the magic within us. We are the ocean in a drop, we are we are spirit incarnate.
And I think that's a big problem, is that when the ego gets involved with these spiritual ideas as well, right? Like that's what we often find with religion. It's the interpretation of it. And so then it can become a competitive thing of my way is the best way. You don't know, this religion's right, and all of that just, goes against fundamentally. And it's interesting because I was in a conversation the other day with my daughter and a friend, and they were talking about Christ consciousness, talking about the return of Christ, the return of Jesus. And actually I wasn't aware that actually not only does Christians believe, but also Muslims believe that Christ will return. Now, for me, I also believe in Christ consciousness, as in, but I believe that to be from within, that, we can know Christ, we can hold Christ consciousness, that understanding of oneness and love, which is what we're talking about. And they say, and what they said was quite interesting, was in the end, we will all follow. The belief is we'll all follow the one religion. Now, of course, dependent where you are, if you were a Christian, you'd say that religion's going to be Christian. Otherwise, why would you be a Christian? And if you're a Muslim, you say that one religion is going to be Islam. That sort of makes sense. And so that's as well from, my point of view, it therefore makes sense that, of course, that one religion will be the religion of universal love, oneness, right? Because that's something that we can all agree on and that we can all feel from within, or we can all be accepting of. It doesn't have to have, it hasn't got these contradictions. And interesting enough, obviously, we find these contradictions throughout all the books as well, like where not only do we have them in religion to religion, but actually within each book there's contradictions, like, turn the other cheek, an eye for an eye. So it becomes very difficult to know yourself in religion when there's so much contradiction, which is why it makes the most sense that you can actually come to know God from within, because there you can really begin to know something for yourself and have, as you say, an intimate experience with spirit. To be able to say, oh, actually, yeah, I can feel that love from within. I can understand that is, what God is. Actually, and I've heard them say, like, doubt is the devil, right? Like, and then that can make sense, because you'll be like, oh yeah, I don't have faith within myself. If I'm not seeing myself as a God being, as a child of God, then, who am I? Do you know what I mean? I'm not really knowing myself. Whereas with a lot of these religions, it's really not about you feeling that goodness from within. It's about, ideally, but there's a whole idea that you have to go through in order to be able to, that's what it feels.
Well, then you have to do all these outside material things, even like rites, like even think about like rites and initiations and things. And it's not that there isn't a purpose to them. And in fact, it's something that we've lost, I think, in the West, that would be great to relearn and reacquire, different kinds of initiations and rites of passage and ways of marking shifts in our own consciousness as we grow. Great idea. But the idea that if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then you're not going to go to heaven, for example, that's where it just starts to become divisive. And that's really the thing, right? You talked about like the universal religion. Well, it's like, and that it actually kind of exists if everybody expands their consciousness to understand that all of these religions are the same. And I remember saying that as a child, like they're all the same. They're also the same thing. Why are we fighting over them? Because they're also the same thing. They all say we are love. They all say that we are one. They all say to love thy neighbor, right? Like, so if we actually just allow ourselves to understand that we are all spirit, which is kind of what we were talking about in previous episodes as well, saying there's no parts of us to judge, right? There's, that we have to have the good and the bad, that we are it all, that there's no parts of us that are wrong, that are bad, that are outside of God, that are outside of spirit. Like there are no beliefs as well. And I think that's, I warned everybody that I was going to talk about paradox a lot in this series, but it's like, that is the thing of multiple truths. There are multiple truths. And once we relax into that understanding that we are all spirit and we are all God, then we can allow ourselves to expand into the understanding that there are multiple truths and that all of the truths of the world come together to make one. And it's when we come into opposition with each other and find those false binaries that's when the problems start. That's when we separate. Once we see anything outside of spirit, like by looking at anyone or anything and say that is not spirit, that is not God, then we're already separating parts of ourselves, and then that's when the problems start. And then we forget that it is all one and it's all spirit. And I think that I was going to say also that that's where language can become really problematic as well, because it's about the interpretation. And that's where so many, freaking wars have been started and stuff over the different interpretations of words, of spiritual words, of different texts. And rather than, and again, like taking it outside of ourself rather than really going within. And that's why when we go within and we go to a space that is not of words, because language itself is very helpful, but it's separate. It's divisive in its own ways, right? Language is a way of dividing things up into different units, and then we are separating up the oneness. And of course, we are separate units of the oneness, and that's beautiful, and that's the beautiful diversity of this earth, right? But it is also the separation of spirit. So as soon as we separate things into language, we're going to have division. And as long as we can hold all of that division and say, hey, it's okay that you're Muslim and I'm Catholic and we think slightly different things about, or even really different things about spirit, but hey, we still believe in spirit, then it's all right. But once we start saying right and wrong, good and bad, other and self, then that's when problems start. And it's not about us all being the same. It's not about us all coming to exactly the same beliefs and looking the same and doing the same and acting the same, right? It's about embracing the beauty of the diversity of it all, right?
And that's the thing. What were you going to say? Sorry. But the thing is in these texts, they talk about unity, they talk about acceptance, they talk about, so they're not. It's only the egoic interpretation of these texts that say, no, I'm right and you're wrong, or my way is better. Actually, they'll say, you have your faith, I have mine. Obviously, if it works for you, then that's great. And actually, they fundamentally have respect for each other. It's just that when people get involved, then of course, what I believe then becomes, the truth. And then obviously and then it becomes an argument. And so that's the thing. I do understand why religion is, even though we have dead dogma, I do understand why religion is still alive today. I do understand how it's still purposeful and how it's still helping people, because I see it. I speak to people and I see how it grounds them and it guides them. And, you know, and even having started with that framework still gave me a language in which to understand what I was feeling and to communicate. You know, I mean, I grew up praying every night and I still pray, you know, and even though I don't do it within a religion, you know, within a context, it's something that is so beautiful and
no, and
so
I
heartful.
admire you. I was going to say, I admire you, your faith. Like, I see that for you, there's a greater ease with which to have faith, to believe. And as I have kind of come round from a rather atheist background into this understanding through plant work, but also through quantum physics and through, you know, my own philosophical studies and all of these different ways of understanding and going, oh yeah, no, we are spirit. Like, I still see that for you it's easier simply to have faith. And I think that comes from your upbringing within the religion, and that's beautiful, you know. And like you say, the act of prayer, your ability to meditate, which comes from having prayed probably when you were younger, and to commit yourself to the divine, I think is so it's beautiful. I was going to say, go on. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, the ability to surrender. That's what it is because, you know, there's this idea that, oh, okay, that's the whole teaching of religion, isn't it? This is something that you can surrender to. And when you don't have that, then you can feel that it's unsafe to surrender unless you've done the work, unless you've done the inner work and you've raised up, you know, that energy and you found that, you know, the heaven within, right? And you've had that experience yourself. And then you can say, oh, actually, no, I understand, you know, I can feel that for myself. So you've got a point of reference. Otherwise, it can be very difficult if you're just speaking to yourself and there's nobody else for you to commune with in that way because, you know, everyone around you is either, you know, in a religion which you've shunned or not, or just not accepted, right? You haven't experienced. Or you're around people that are atheists. It's like, where do you get that communication from? You know, like who brings you that? So then, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, go on.
Yeah, go. No, you go.
I was going to say, which brings me back to the whole reason that we are doing the podcast, Embodying Spirit, you know, and that's where I think that these institutionalized religions kind of lost their way because, I mean, it makes me think of Terence McKenna's Food of the Gods, which is an amazing book. If you guys ever have a chance to look at it, read it, because he tracks. I mean, it is about psychedelics in some ways, but he tracks the kind of path of spirit within our connection to spirit. Coming, he says, through like it's a stoned ape theory of us eating the mushrooms that grew out of the cow dung, and that's what allowed us to become bipedal and our brains to grow at a particularly crazy rate, evolutionary. But what he then goes on to talk about is the goddess cults, and the goddess cults where we were completely connected to having that spiritual experience of feeling the goddess, the God within, you know, of having that direct, visceral, visionary, connected experience to the divine, that we are in direct experience of the divine, which we don't have to have psychedelics to feel. We know we can get this through meditation. We can get this through many embodied ways, though, right? We can have visions and we can feel connected through our breath work. And that as history evolved, and as we moved away from working with psychedelics, we moved away from the goddess cult, and actually we then started to bring in priests. So then you would have the connection to the divine via the priest having a out of body experience, right, or a spiritual experience. And then as we evolved more into then we had mead and we had wine and the cult of Dionysus, and that's okay. And the minute we start brewing spirit outside of, then we have the priests, then we have complete disassociation from the spiritual experience. So even though he's talking a lot about the kind of substances that were used, because, you know, we had all of the initiation cults and using different things, but the point being that we moved from this very embodied experience of feeling spiritual, of having that, towards a point where I think, and I think it was also about the dawn of agriculture and the need and property and the needing to control people that we had, of like wanting to create that hierarchy of saying, actually, we want to take that power away from people, because when people feel the divine within, when they feel themselves as spirit, then actually they can't be controlled, because they know that they are part of the divine, and they know their divine purpose, and they feel empowered. And once I can take that away and I can say, oh no, but in order to access that, you have to go through this institution and this body, then you're much more easy to be controlled, And we've created that ourselves. I always like to go away from an us and them narrative. Like, it's like for some reason, we lost our way a little bit in that. Maybe in the need to have security through property, through agriculture. That's just what happened. That's what had to happen. But now we're finding our way back to having that embodied experience of spirit, right?
It would make sense as well that, because of where we were situated on the earth, that we would come with our different interpretations so through all those different interpretations, that will come together to find a universal way, which is what's spoken about, right? That we weren't just following the one way. And even as you were talking, I was thinking about where, if you can think yourself, how easy it is just to get caught up in a reactive lifestyle, right? That, that's the whole thing, is nothing is bad or good, right? So if you had somebody, right, who had that spiritual path, instilled in, for whatever reason, that was their way, right? And they'd really spent their time cultivating this connection, then more than likely they're going to be having these spiritual experiences. So then they can then reference those spiritual experiences to somebody else who can then be aware of something that they wouldn't be aware of otherwise, which allows for them to understand, oh, okay, this is something I can give more to. And I think that that's actually a real positive, that we have that we have, that we're able to share these stories and inspire other people who may be just lost in, the reaction of survival in life, right?
Completely.
So it's interesting. It's it's only when it becomes, this is the way, or my way is better than yours.
Yeah. They say, don't they, that like Homo sapiens, as opposed to Neanderthals, the thing that like Neanderthals actually had bigger brains than us, but the Homo sapiens than us. I mean, we also have Neanderthal in us, but the reason why Homo sapiens survived beyond a Neanderthal is because the Homo sapiens knew how to share. That they weren't as like they weren't more intelligent in general, but what they had the ability to was to share with each other the intelligence that they did have and the skills that they did have, and therefore, in the end, that's what made them evolutionarily more advanced, because they could connect. So we definitely need to be sharing these things and connecting in our spiritual practices and our understanding of self. And I mean, that's the thing, know thyself. And how do we know ourselves? Through connecting with other as well. That is, what we've talked about again and again as well, right? Yeah. So just for transparency, back after a sort of 40-minute load shedding gap. I'm recording from Cape Town. If you don't know what load shedding is, look it up. It's the joys of lots of power outages because of the beauteous corruption of Eskom. Anyway, so where were we? Dead Dogma, spiritual crack. So I guess, yeah, what we were talking a lot about kind of the old ways and how they have both sides to them, good and bad, or helpful, and also taking God outside of ourselves is not helpful. And I suppose where I was then going was kind of saying that it feels like we're having a renaissance of refinding the spirit within. Like that having gone down this slightly, I believe we'll look back on these times and see them as the dark ages, these last few centuries, where we put God and spirit outside of ourselves and gave our power away. We're now rediscovering the spirit within, and particularly those of us, or not particularly, but in terms of my personal experience, having come from a more atheist background and not having had any kind of connection to spirit, and actually having been quite judgmental about any kind of religion or spirituality growing up, realizing this deeply missing part of myself, this gaping hole. I believe that's why there's so much depression in the world, why so many people are feeling so lost, because they've lost spirituality, and yet they're not connecting to those institutionalized religions for all the reasons we already spoke about. And now there is this renaissance. Now we can talk about spirit and we can talk about energy in a way that we haven't been able to for many, many years, and outside of the religious institutions as well, right? And that is beautiful. And it's exciting. And as I said also previously, it's like that's the remembering of there being magic in the world. And as we also have talked about in previous episodes, that's what quantum physics is backing up, etc., etc. And this is great. This is really, really great. But where the whole concept of spiritual crack comes in, as I've labeled it, is that we are still, because it's a way of being that we have inherited ancestrally for many, many, many generations, we're still prone to put that power outside of ourselves still. So we're like, oh yeah, no, I don't have a religion. I'm just a spiritual person. But instead of doing the work, because it takes work as well to find that connection, to do the energy exercises you were talking about, to do the breath work, to do the meditation, to really connect into your own spiritual self, to give yourself space and time in nature even, to find silence, to be able to really know yourself as spirit, does take energy, and it takes a different kind of way of working with self and a different kind of faith and trust. And so what often happens is that we revert back to the old known ways of reading books, of looking at texts, and of creating father figures or hierarchical better than structures, people outside of ourselves, to give our power away to. So it ends up this guru, or I reject my Catholic background, but now I'm going to follow this guru in India and do all these 25 mantras or whatever 75 times a day, not really knowing why I'm doing it, but just because that's what I've been told is going to bring me enlightenment, and now I'm going to become dogmatically addicted to that instead. Right? Or I'm going to take this person who, is channeling the entity from the star system of the intergalactic, whatever, and listen to whatever they're saying and believe whatever they say as the truth, regardless of where it resonates or how it resonates in my body and in my truth, and believe that because they have this channel and that they're the one that knows. And again, I take power away from myself and I give it away. And then once again, I'm failing to find the spirit within, and I'm creating a guru. Say no gurus, many teachers. Like that's what we were saying before. We need to find, we need to work with each other to find this connection, but we can't give our power away, right?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I've seen that as well, where, somebody has gone to somebody for healing, and then they're looking to that person to continually be, rather than taking from them what they're sharing and running with that in their life, and they're looking to that person and making that person God. And actually it's just the whole priest sort of ideology, coming into play again, where, this person knows God better than I do. And that's really, really very, very dangerous. It just leads to people being exploited, which is what I have also seen as, these false gurus as well that just prey on vulnerable people. So it's really, really important that, that people do find their own, find their connection from within as well.
And it's so easy when we don't feel it or we don't know it. It's like the whole Emperor's New Clothes thing as well, right? Like it always comes back to that fable, like in the spiritual world, because there's so much when we're working in the unseen world. It's so easy for people to, because we're so visually focused as well within this world, it's so easy for people to pull the wool over your eyes, as it were, right? And to say, oh, but if you don't feel it or if you don't see it, then you're not really truly spiritual. That's the whole thing, right? And so, oh no, I do feel it. Yeah. Rather than just being honest and open, like the child in the story who calls out that this emperor's actually is completely naked. It's like, actually, I'm not feeling it. And also, again, it's not to say, and therefore you're wrong, but it's like, but that's not working for me. And that's why there's many ways to find spirit inside as well. And maybe those 25,000 mantras, works for this, like for a whole group of people in a particular time, in a particular way, but it's not working for you. And you need to be honest about that. right? And maybe, and it's also, I mean, and the reason why it's dangerous is also because a lot of those people, those gurus, right, that we see it time and again, I think came from a place of good intention. Again, no good or bad, right? But when we give excessive amounts of power to any one person or entity, power corrupts. Right?
Totally.
I think most politicians that go into politics have good intentions for the people, but then they get corrupted by the power. And the same with the priests. I don't think those priests went in with an intention of being pedophiles, right? Like, I think that it's something that happens when you're given all of this power and people hand their power to you, and suddenly you start to believe that you are above the laws of nature and moralities, and then you and that's what happens. It messes up. And we've been taught this lesson, I believe, by Spirit again and again and again, to be able to reclaim our sovereign power and to be able to reclaim what is us, and that to understand that we all have to claim our own sovereignty, our own divinity, all play the part and take responsibility for our spiritual selves, to each be the piece of the puzzle to create the whole, to be able to then evolve or ascend or whatever you want to call it, to the next level of evolution of consciousness, to be able to come more into our power, to know ourselves greater.
Totally. I mean, and it's also true that there is, like we were saying as well, that there are people out here that have been earnestly doing the work, and therefore can really help others on their journey as well. So, it's just a case of being really aware of.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Because it's like, now there's also this thing of like, oh, everyone's a shaman. Like, literally everyone walking, oh, now I'm going to be a shaman. And you're like, okay. It's not to take away from the dedicated lifetimes of work that people have done to develop their fine-tuning of consciousness, to develop their deep connection to spirit. Right? At the same time, miracles can happen, and you can have overnight experiences. You can have deeply spiritual experiences that just happen upon you without even asking for them. This can happen. But also, we have to beware of cultural appropriation as a big thing as well. And we have to beware of just deciding. I mean, it's like, it reminds me of that quote as well. It's like, what's the difference between, I don't know if I'm totally bastardizing this, and I'm sorry, I don't even know who said it, but I just love it. This idea that, like, what's the difference between a wise man and a madman? I don't know if it's a Zen thing or if maybe it's an Alan Watts thing or whatever. And the difference is that the wise man knows, or wise person knows they're God, and the mad person thinks that they're the only God. It's that thing of knowing that we are all spirit, but every single one of us is, and we all embody it in different ways, and we're all at on different paths, and different places in our journey of knowing it as well, right?
And we can also have like really divine experiences and be the knower of those experiences, become awake, right, to our God consciousness, but forget as well. So actually, that's why we should never be following someone, because even if today they sound so aligned and you can really feel and resonate with what they're saying, tomorrow that person can fall off path as well and be talking from a different place as well. So
completely,
it's really,
and even within the same moment. I mean, that's also something that has been a big lesson for me on this spiritual journey of awakening, is that somebody can be really, really powerful in terms of their ability to connect to the spirit world, in terms of their ability to channel entities, in terms of their ability even to heal people, and they can be really unhygienic in terms of their personal lives, and I don't mean in terms of how often they wash. I mean, they can be having affairs or beating their children. And that again is one of these paradoxes. Yeah. Right. It's like, and of course, I believe that ultimately that there's a level of evolution where they're going to be able to, that they've still got work to do, is the point, right? You can hold a high level of integrity within your teachings and still have a long way to travel within your personal work. And therefore, that's why we can't put anyone on a pedestal, right?
And I think it's really difficult as well for those people that are in that position, because, you can, if you're speaking about something and you're speaking about it like with real belief. And then, you know, there's a part of you that for whatever reason in this area disconnects from that. It's almost like you can't be vulnerable as well, because then somebody's gonna be like, well, how can you say that? If you say that, then, you know, well, what is there that I can believe? Because you have to uphold what you're saying. And so therefore you can then start to, you know, deceive, but not because you want to hurt, but just because, you know, you don't want to seem incoherent to somebody else, because, you know, obviously nobody is God. Nobody is in the full awareness of God. Nobody can be God as a whole. So this remembering and forgetting is a constant for us in this
completely
material world. So
not to put myself on a pedestal here, but I know exactly what you mean in terms of like having you know, working ceremonially, and I am very early on this path. I mean, it's only been 5 or 6 years that I've been doing this work, and you know, I'm very clear about the fact that I'm not a shaman. I'm here to hold space for other people to go through their own healing experiences, right? And that we can hold space for each other. And that's what I believe, you know, that we're moving out of this world of healer and healed and into a world of holding each other in healing, you know. And yet, because I play this role of holding space for people to journey and channeling music, I sometimes feel in the kind of spiritual social world of Cape Town that I have to act in a certain way, or that people are looking at me in a particular way and you know, like expecting me to behave in a certain way, or if I were to be particularly silly or careless or whatever, just because I feel like it or whatever, that I will be judged then for that, right? But I think that actually it's important, you know, I try and bring my clown out as much as possible, because I think it's really important for people to be like, oh, you know, I like to be messy in my emotions, actually, because they are still messy, and because I don't think that they're ever not going to be messy to a certain extent. It's that thing like we were talking about last time as well, about it's not good or bad, it's just about knowing yourself more.
And
right.
Yeah, and it's the knowing that heaven and hell they exist within us, right? Like we can, you know, we are the ones that can feel like deeply disconnected and deeply connected, and that's all of us. And so in that understanding, then it becomes like, you know, when you're looking at somebody, you're not saying, expecting them to be anything other than what you are. And, you know, therefore there's no pedestal that you put them on, because because you're aware that, I was just
going to say that sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say that reminds me of, and again, I don't know where this comes from, but the true definition of humility, you know, which often when I think, or when I used to think of humility, I thought about kind of like bowing one's head and like bowing down, being humble, right? Like, but I think if you look it up, the true definition is like not putting anything above or below you. Humility is seeing everything as equal to you. And I really like that definition of humility, wherever it comes from, that, you know, that we're all, how would you say it? Like we're all fractals of spirit, of God consciousness. You know, we're all different and beautiful, unique, representations, particles of God, of spirit. You know, with the light and the dark, contrasting each, and to remember that. And then, as long as you don't ever put yourself above or below anyone else, then actually, that's, I think, also where harmony and peace can come from.
Well, that's when we can actually play the present moment, can't we? It's when we have these ideas that we get caught up in trying to be perceived as, or we have a set idea of somebody, and therefore we keep projecting that onto them. So yeah, it's really important just to be in the understanding that we're just here now and we have it all within us. And actually everything is God. And that's, you know, and that's why religion as well, just to make that point, why sometimes it can feel so harsh, because it can have such an idea of good and bad and right and wrong. And therefore leave people feeling outside of God. And, you know, and of course that's just not the case. Like, no, and that's why we say, like, even with all of these priests and shares and all of these religious, I mean, like, you know, Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, you know, it wasn't about them being good, right? It was about them, you know, moving in
being human,
in a awareness, and you know, moving in a higher awareness. It was about that, in that oneness, yeah. And you know, and that is what their teachings were, and that is what our teaching is as well. To discover that from within, and that, you know, that we are love, and that, you know, love is what the world is made of. But that involves deep compassion, which means deep empathy for other and where they're at. And obviously we speak a lot about this, but, you know, that's why it just makes so much sense for us to really understand that we are everything and everything is us, right? Then we can really appreciate that.
Yeah. It reminds me of I was rereading the Caroline Myss Sacred Contracts book, and she was looking at all of the major Abrahamic prophets, you know, Abraham, Muhammad, Jesus, and looking at how also that they also constantly had to have their faith reaffirmed as well. That they didn't know. I mean, first of all, that they had very messy human lives, and but they were constantly doubting their, you know, the God as well. You know, I mean, that it was a constant journey of affirmation and also not acting in the most highest and amazing ways. You know, often making very human mistakes, and then learning through those experiences how to gain greater faith and align themselves more with their God self, right?
Yeah, and obviously Jesus was not a Christian. Prophet Muhammad was not a Muslim. I mean, these things were born of them after they were no longer here. Then there were these, you know, these religions that came about to guide us. So it's also that understanding that, you know, they were just in their process. And of course, they were highly regarded souls who had come with, you know, real intention and that have brought much to the world, and, you know, and that we're grateful for. But we each are here to bring much to the world, and we're each here to find how we can, you know, express our God selves in the world as well. So, you know, that's, you know, and that's the beauty of understanding spirit within, right? That's why we say embody spirit within, so you can find greater peace with yourself.
Exactly. And that's why faith in self is faith in God. You know, I really like that phrase, and it's something that I come back to, that it's like, in having faith in oneself, in one's path, in one's connection, in one's divinity, that is the faith in the divine, right? Because it is all held within us. And that means, as you say, having compassion for the whole of us as well, and the whole of the universe. Yeah, and for each other. There was just one more thing I wanted to share, which was around, you know, we've spoken in previous episodes a lot about the Hermetic principles, the universal laws, you know, the law of polarity, and the law of mentalism, and these things. And, you know, from a Hermetic understanding of God, you know, they say actually that God doesn't have any morals. That in fact it is just those universal laws. And I like to think about this in terms of, you know, because I think a lot of the problems that come with the dogma and the dogma and the spiritual crack is the judgment of self, and the judgment of other, and the judgment by other of self and of other. You know. And I think when we take it back to these basic principles as well of the universe, which also can bring us back to the quantum physics of it all, is that it's so simple as well. It's like, as within, so without, as above, so below. You know, this is the law of correspondence, I think it is, in the Hermetic principles. And that idea, which also runs through all of the religious texts as well, right? You know, of like, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself, right? And there was one you were saying as well.
As a man thinketh in his heart, so it shall be. I think that's the one.
Right. And that makes me think of the Patanjali from the Yoga Sutras. Everything is a reflection of the condition of your own heart, right? And just this idea that there doesn't need to be this outside judgmental set idea or rule that is governing us, that we are answering to. You know, but to really, it's a call to claim back our own power, and to understand that, you know, whatever you do will come back onto you. You know, however you act, that will be received. You know, every force has an equal and opposite. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You know, it's even in Newtonian physics. You know, it's like everything is connected and corresponds, and there's no. Kind of moral intelligence judging that. It's all coming from within, and it's all created by us.
I do want to say as well, like, I don't think we mentioned prayer, but I do really connect with prayer as an idea. And I think it's something that's so purposeful, whether we're, whether we are following a religion, like, of course, in religion it's a big thing, but just even on the spiritual path, communicating with the divine is a beautiful, beautiful commune that actually has a lot of value to it as well.
I completely agree. And it's actually something that I used to do naturally as a child. And then once I became a teenager and, got all on my high horse about all of the, understandably so, all of the issues I had with institutionalized religion, I then let go of and now have reclaimed. And I think it's also really important to say that prayer doesn't have to sound or look like anything you imagine it to as well. It's just about setting up that dialogue. It doesn't have to even be verbal, right? But just setting up that dialogue with divinity, with the spirit within, taking time to sit with your highest desires and your fears, and being honest. It's about having an honest dialogue with your higher self, really, right? And I mean, prayer and meditation go hand in hand, right? Because in meditation we can bring ourselves into that state of connection, and into that state of calm, and into that state of knowing. And from there, that's also where we can have the dialogue, whether that's one of manifestation or of just resonance, and finding that knowing. Embodying Spirit. That is the answer. We came up with a good title for this podcast, I think, is.
Yeah, on point.
So let go of that dead dogma and that spiritual crack and find your own way, your own personal way. I think we've hammered that message home in this episode. I hope you really enjoyed it as much as we have. And stay tuned for in this episode, the exercise and the meditation come together in a beautiful shamanic drumming journey. So just stay tuned for that. Sending you lots and lots of love and looking forward to being with you again soon.
See you on the next episode.
Hello, beautiful souls. So this is a combined meditation and exercise for this episode. And I'm going to lead you on a shamanic drumming journey. And, for some of you that might sound a little bit far out and woo-woo. But I invite you to have an open mind and an open heart and to trust in this process. A lot of shamanic cultures, which I believe we all originally, ancestrally came from, a lot of them that we know about work with psychedelics or worked with psychedelic plants, but actually more prolific and more prevalent than working with psychedelic plants was working with the drum. And they say that the drum represents the womb space, because when we're in the womb, there are two heartbeats, that of your own and that of your mother. So working with the drum takes us back into that womb space. And I guess the reason why we chose to use this exercise with this episode is because doing this exercise allows you to begin to really develop that primary connection, that personal connection with your own spirit self. And the drum beat allows you to go into a sort of light trance state, one where you can allow yourself to enter a vision space. And this first shamanic drumming journey that we do is one where we go to meet our spirit guide. And you don't need to know who your spirit guide is. And even if you have an idea of who your spirit guide is, I ask you to have an open mind and to let go of that. So what I'm asking you to do firstly is to find a comfortable space. You can either sit in meditation or you can lie down in Shavasana on your back, making sure you're really relaxed and open. and you feel safe and held wherever you are as well. You may want a blanket as well because you might get a little bit cold. So to lie down, and if you need to stop the tape and get yourself comfortable, then please do. And what you're going to do, first of all, is to think of a place. So in a lot of shamanic cultures, they talk about the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world. And that is not akin to hell or heaven, although the upper world is a world where there are more spirits. But the lower world is the world of the animals and the earthly spirit realm. The middle world is the world of the elementals that exist. We're in the middle world, but there's still a kind of spiritual presence within this world. And the lower world is that of the animal spirits. So I guess we're going to find your animal spirit guide. So the first thing to do is to think of a place, a real place that exists in nature, that you know of, where you can descend into the lower world. Traditionally, this could be a tree that you can enter through a hole in the tree and descend down through the roots of that tree. Or it could also be a natural body of water. Could be a waterfall, maybe, or a place, a particular place in a river behind a rock or something where you can go in and descend. It's helpful if it's somewhere that you really know, and somewhere that you can really think about. So probably already a place came to mind immediately and you dismissed it. So I'll ask you just to return to that place, any place in nature. And if you're thinking of somewhere and you think, oh, actually, that's imagined, I don't actually know exactly what that is, that's also fine. An imagined place in nature where you can descend into the lower world. And when the drumming begins, you are going to take yourself to that place in nature and just imagine yourself there. And when you imagine yourself there, you're going to say to yourself as well that you're going to descend into the lower world to meet your animal spirit guide. And then in your imagination, you're going to take yourself through that portal into that tree or behind that waterfall or under the surface of that river. And you're going to allow yourself to descend down. And that may look or feel like going down the roots of the tree or flowing down through the bottom of the river. And allow your imagination to work with you. Now, it's an interesting space we go into, and people often say, particularly those that haven't worked a lot with vision, like, oh, am I not just making this up? Am I not just making this up in my mind? And initially you may feel like you are making things up, and that's okay. But, and you may also find yourself drifting back into the room and into the space. And I really encourage you to keep your eyes closed. But then just allow yourself, like in meditation, just to come back to where you are, to come back to where you were. And just allow yourself to drift downward under the earth, down through the roots or down through the waters, until you reach a doorway of some kind, until you reach the bottom of this pathway to the lower world. And allow yourself to step out. Maybe it's a river on the other side in the lower world. Maybe it's a door, an actual door. Some kind of way of stepping out into the lower world. And it may take you a very short time to descend. It may take you a long time, and that's okay. And when it feels right, and when you feel that you're there and you've arrived, then you can step out into the lower world and just wait there and look around and look at what it is that you can see. and allow your imagination to take you somewhere. And know that if you're not pre-planning it, it might feel like you're making it up, but that's also okay. And when you see what is around you, just allow yourself to stand there and to observe the landscape that is before you. And allow whatever animals or creatures are there to approach you. And, they say that in order for you to know that the animal is your guide, is that it will appear 3 times in your vision. But I also feel like it doesn't have to be so exact. Different animals, you might see different animals, and you can also ask, are you my spirit guide? Are you my spirit guide? Just get a sense and a feeling. And eventually, there's no rush. You'll find one, or you'll feel, or they'll have appeared a few times, and you'll know that they are your guide. And then you can ask them their name. And when they've given you their name or a sense of their name and who they are, you can then ask them anything. You might just ask them to show you what it is you need to see. You might ask them to show you the lower world. You might have a question now already that you know you want to ask your animal guide, or a question might arise right there and then. And from there, really, it is up to you to converse with your guide as much as you can and as you desire. And this might be a gentle, slow process, and it might take a little bit longer. Or it might all happen much faster than you anticipated. And after 20 minutes, you will hear a loud bang of the drum. So the drum will be in a constant beat, a trance-like beat that's allowing you to go there. And then after a while, you will hear and a pause. And then the drumming will become very, very fast. And at that point, that is calling you back. And so wherever you've got to, and maybe you haven't left very far from the entrance, maybe you've stayed right there with your guide, and maybe you're still looking at the landscape, and maybe your guide hasn't revealed itself to you at this point, and that's all good. There's nothing wrong that can happen in this journey. At that point, when you hear the call back of the drum, then you retrace your steps back through the tunnel, back all the way up to the earth, back through the portal that you've chosen to bring you back to earth. And that will be the end of your journey. Okay, we're going to begin. So, taking a few deep breaths, deep, deep, deep breaths, in and out. Relaxing yourself, allowing the belly to soften, allowing the eyes to close and the muscles of the face to relax. Allowing yourself to feel supported by the earth beneath you. And finding yourself in your imagination, in your mind's eye, in this beautiful place in nature, this special place that's going to transport you through its portal, through its tunnel, down into the lower world to meet your spirit guide. finishing your journey out of your tunnel and back through your portal if you haven't yet already. Allowing yourself to come back to your body, to relax into the mat, feeling your body in the space, becoming aware of what you can smell, what you can taste, what you can hear near and far, becoming aware of the sensations of your skin on your clothes, the sensations within your body, and gently fluttering the eyes open to become aware of what you can see. Having a little stretch. And before you try to interpret or judge too much what has come up for you in this journey, I invite you to take a paper and pen and to journal or to voice note for yourself your experience, remembering that nothing is wrong, nothing is good or bad, each experience is valid. Deepening that understanding that the imagination and the vision world are very much closer than we often think. And we allow ourselves to slip into that realm without anticipation or pre-planning, then what comes up is deeply for us. And if you struggled a lot to get out of your head and felt yourself very distracted, then it's also deep lessons. Allow yourself to come back to this meditation again. It is a practice. And now that you've opened this relationship with the lower world and your guide and guides down there, you can return whenever you like. Blessings for your onward journey, beautiful souls. And we look forward to connecting with you again next time. Thank you so much for listening to Embodying Spirit with Tārā and Isabel Almeida. This podcast is brought to you by Rewire Desire and the Conscious Connection community. Please see the links to our social media and websites in the show notes to connect more and access our other offerings. This podcast is brought to you free of charge to spread the love and light we all so deeply need in these times of transition. If you feel abundant, safe, and in a space to be able to give from, we would deeply appreciate your support to sustain this gift. Please follow the link below to make a donation. If you would like to connect deeper and would consider becoming a more active partner, then please reach out to us. We look forward to you tuning in again with us soon. Love always, Tārā and Isabel.